Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. সুরাটা আমি পড়ার উদ্দেশ্য ছিল যেটা দোয়াও হলো প্লাস ধরেন আমি নিজেও একটু নার্ভাস যেটা একটু কাটানোর জন্য চেষ্টা করতেছি
বাবিটা রাখবো পাশে থাম বসাবো হ্যাঁ
Today I am going to talk about few verses of Holy Quran and then some scientific viewpoint. Actually, those viewpoints actually not manifest at anyone at the time of the revelation of Holy Quran. Today mainly I will discuss about 10 verses of Holy Quran and their scientific viewpoint. The aim of this presentation is to learn, acquire and to improve the knowledge from Quran and to increase the faith. So the topics of this verse is the virtues of science in the Holy Quran. Basically, I spoke these things in previous one year before. So today I will talk the second part of based on these topics. Allah mentioned in the Surah Rum, verses 58, that and surely we have presented in the Quran all kind of examples for the benefit of mankind. If you being them a sign, the disbeliever will surely say, you believer are nothing, the mean of falsehood. So basically today we'll give different scientific sign in Quran, and because of this scientific sign which will increase our faith, which confirm that the power of Allah, which also confirm that the wording in Quran is from the Allah. So the Quran does not give a single uniform essay that how the universe is begun, how life is created in the earth, how human sense and birth function, but instead of keeping the Quranic method of teaching, different aspects of science are mentioned in different phases in order to give the authority to particular lesson being taught. We try to be careful about the selection, the translation and the interpretation version of the Quranic verses that we are going to present. So please forgive me and correct me if I have anything wrong. May Allah forgive us if we make any mistake during the presentation. So in last year basically I spoke about the creation of universe. Today I am going to talk both the creation of the universe and the creation of the life. So when we talk about the creation of universe, basically the Big Bang theory comes in the mind. So the Big Bang theory is a very accepted theory, and in the majority of scientists and anywhere it's a very accepted theory. It is in 1927, basically Belgian cosmologist, and he's also priest, George Lemaître, proposed this theory. But in 1965, the radio astronomers Spengers and Wilson, they got the Nobel Prize by winning this discovery. Then after winning this discovery, actually they again another discovery they did it, that is that is a single point from the universe, that the universe is created from the single point, and it was initially extremely very hot. So when Prophet Muhammad lived in 1400 years ago, basically he told his companions, when he recites some Quranic verses, and he told his companions that the heavens were smoke at the beginning, and then the universe is expanding. This is he told is so in the Quran, if you go to the Surah Anbiya, verse 30, then we can say here, the Quran says that, has not those who disbelieve that the heavens and the earth were both joined, then we splitted them apart, and we made living thing out of water, will not then believe. So this is the Surah Anbiya, and at the beginning, basically, when people interpret this kind of like scientific viewpoint from this ayat, actually they cannot really interpret. They just correlate with the from the water. That means it's water, how it is coming from the water. They cannot explain that heavens and earth were joined together, and then we splintered them apart. So after Big Bang Theory actually discovered, people can explain these things very clearly. And not only that in another ayat, in Surah Al-Daniyat, verse 47, Allah told that the heavens are continuously expanding. So if we combine these two verses, Surah Al-Dariyat and Surah Al-Dariyat and Surah Anbiya, part 30, then we can interpret the thing is like this: the world has been in the form of a single great unit of blazing vapor that, as a result of some time inward explosion and movement, it's gradually divided into parts, and the stars and planets, including the solar system and the earth, and the universe is still expanding. So this Surah Anbiya and Surah Al-Diyat, if together, then this is the scientific interpretation now. And I received it, this is from, I forget the interpretations whose name is. And so also Allah says in the Quran that He discovered heaven, stars, sun, moon, and in Furqan He told that most blessed is he who set a constellation in the heaven and placed in a great land and shining moon. So when we are, so this is what, and then scientists will say that, as for example, when this Copernicus, he claimed that Earth rotated around the sun, and Galileo and Isaac Newton, they also said that planets is orbiting the sun. And when we have studied, like as for example in 1980s, when we were in high school student, or we studied that in Bangladesh, basically we studied that sun is fixed, and Earth, Moon, planets, they are rotating. Okay, and also I remember that in the practical class, geological practical class, we did some kind of experiment. We off the light and globe, we set up the globes, and there is a lamp, and then we said that if this part is like in Bangladesh it is a daytime, then in America it's a night time. So such kind of explanation when we are in high school or middle school, I remember I studied. But Quran is saying the sun is orbiting, but we learned sun is fixed. Sun. So sun is fixed, and that is what we learned. But Quran says that sun is orbiting, moon is orbiting, earth is orbiting, and planet, everything is orbiting. So from Surah Anbiya, this is and Surah Yasin, you can easily understand that Allah says in Surah Anbiya And it is Allah who has made the sun, who has made the night and the day, and created the sun and the moon. All of them are floating, each in its own orbital. Also in Surah Yasin, Allah says, it is not permitted the sun to overtake the moon, nor can the night overtake the day. It is floating in its own orbital. That means both of these verses, they said sun is floating, moon is floating, all the things are floating. Okay. So, but as I remember that we know that it's a fixed. So basically, scientists found recently that the Earth and other planets in our solar system, they revolve around the sun, and sun orbit around the center of Milky Way. This is recently scientists found, what Quran said in 1400 years ago. So also they found that the average velocity of moving the sun is 8,800 kilometers per hour, and it took about 230 million years to get one rotation. And this is the orbit of the rotation you can see here from this figure. So this is the sun is orbiting, and this is the whole solar system. So these verses significance that what we studied in our school, it's wrong, scientifically as well as in Quranic word. Similar to us, we all know that our story writer Taslima Nasreen, most of you know that, she also studied this wrong thing, I think, from school. But what she did, actually, she pointed out this point, and publicly she announced that Quran is wrong. So what's happened for her, everyone we knows that she's now out of country. So, but in fact, when scientists prove that both sun is moving, and Earth, everything is moving, but sun is a fixed means the sun is moving, but our solar system is moving around the sun. And now it is also, there is another thing, is not only one sun, maybe scientists are thinking there are more sun in the Milky Way, in the solar system. So that's the story. So as you see that here, I bolded like a red mark and yellow, green to highlight to word, Arabic word. So in the first word, actually red one, if we say that is a kullun fi falakin. So if we analyze these two words, that means in the first word, if we analyze, you can see the arrangement of symmetry. That kaf, lam, fa, and ya. And again, the fa, lam, and kaf. So this is a kind of beauty and symmetrical arrangement of if we see this one. And on the other hand, if we remember the floating, there is in Arabic there is a two word. One word is called floating. It's not a floating. It's called. There is a two word in Arabic. One is amma, and other word is called sabha. And here we said yes, bahu. And many of the translation, when people did, they are actually, instead of floating, they are saying swimming. But these things, when I deeply studied, I studied that swimming is something like in English there is only one word, but in Arabic there is a two word. One is amma. Amma is basically used when fish swimming, then they are using amma. But when human is swimming, then they are saying samba. Samba. Yeah, they are saying Samba. So in this case, basically this translation, when we studied, I saw that in several translator they are using the orbit in the swimming or something, but I feel it is basically it will be floating. Okay, so because in the system, like they cannot swim, they are floating. Like as a human, we are floating, we are not swimming. And if we draw the line from all of this wording, symmetrical wording, they are symmetric. If we draw the line, you can see that how the beauty of these Arabic things. Like if you consider each of them as an orbit, and so this is called an orbit of each. So this is a kind of beauty of the Quran, and so such kind of, if you go to the website, you can see more than 100 of different miracle in the Quran. Different kind of miracle. This something is mathematical modeling, mainly mathematical modeling, lot of mathematical modeling, lot of literature modeling. This is a kind of drawing or schematic modeling. You can say this is one kind of. So this is what like the Quran, and then from here, if you learn more and more, then it is easily understand that this Quran is not like created or not right or not developed by any human. It is a came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So next I would like to talk about the story of the creation of life. So basically when we say the creation of life, so before talking these things, actually I have two questions come out in my mind. Is when life is began and how life has been originated. So today I will, based on these two questions, basically I try to present the whole presentation. So when life is began is basically we can understand from the scientific viewpoint is called the radiometric dating kind of measurement by using the old rock, earth rock, moon's rock, or meteorites for this kind of measurement, and then they found that in 1400 billion years ago actually this earth is formed. Similarly, the scientists, when they used the fossils discovered in Western Australia, they found that in 3.5 or 3.9 billion ago, the life is formed. So then in BBC News, Nature magazine actually updates some kind of schematic viewpoint, like they showed that when Earth is formed and when life is formed, basically this Homo sapiens, when the human life is basically formed, this kind of they highlight the number of notable prehistoric event and some kind of major zoological and biological changes in the world. In the whole the chart up here, and if you find that in basically 200 years ago, the human life or kind of human species is evolved. So we can understand that about 3.5 billion ago the life began, but we don't know how life originated in our planet. It is not easy, it's very complicated things, but when I studied different literature, I found that there is a lot of philosophy, a lot of belief of core, people are talking, and they are giving different kind of theory, science, synthesis, model, and hypothesis, a lot of things they are talking. But everything what I feel is very like hypothetical. So a few of example I am giving here, so you can see that first there is called the Darwin theory, and we studied this one when we were in high school, as you remember. That আমাদের জীবন basically বানর থেকে আসছে, and then we studied, like those who are from Bangladesh, actually we studied these things. And this Darwin basically proposed that the species can change over the time, and then Darwin said the new species come from pre-existing species, and species share a common ancestor. And he proved that the kind of like a ancestor means when you see the tree, multiple tree, they are coming from the same living organism. So that is why he think, because this Darwin, he's as a biologist as well as he is a zoologist. So still now his theory is very popular among the scientists, and a lot of scientists still now trying to, develop or trying to understand his concept or trying to modify his concepts. So there is another kind of theory, it's called human evolution by alien. It's a kind of faith belief kind of, but again this is from Darwin theory, originally from Darwin theory. But those who believe more faith, they believe they are describing this kind of evolution of life. So then another is called aquatic ape theory. So this theory is a little bit funny for me. I feel that it look like the বানর পানিতে ডুব দিছে, পানিতে ডুব দেওয়ার পর যখন উঠে আসছে তখন মানুষ হয়ে গেছে. But this is very simply I told you, but there is a lot of scientific, a lot of paper published, a lot of book they wrote based on this ape theory. That means sometime in some long time before, like some people come from the sea and they look like human, So, and then in 2004, basically there is a center developed. It's called Center for Theological Inquiry in New Jersey, and under NASA, and they're spending every year more than $1 million to understand this kind of theological ideas. So then also what we found that there is another way, actually people try to understand that how the human is developed or how the life is created. They try to understand the morphology of different skull of our system, and eventually this morphology giving more like a time. The different kind of skull has different time they created, and they understand from radiometric dating that when this different kind of skull is formed, so this kind of thing. And then they try to predict actually gradually this is Darwin theory. This species is changing based on the time, but the biologists or different kind of scientists, they are putting the different kind of name, and it's again really complicated. But what I understand that actually the origin of life is basically before 1920s, everything is hypothetical. But after 1920s, basically we found that there is some kind of real scientific view the people proposed. And I'm not sure that what kind of hypothesis is correct, which kind of everything is correct, or we need more to study or more discovered. So in 1920s, basically, he's a biologist, and there's two guys who is Opernin and Haldren. They both work independently, and they came up with the theory is called chemical evolution. They said it's a chemical evolution. And what they are saying that long time before, like under no oxidation, no oxygen, when there is some reduction condition. So in the reduction condition, this earth that means soil and earth, there is some elements is there. These elements basically they change to the organic compound, that means sugar, lipid, amino acids. Those are basically the sugar, lipid, amino acids, they are basically elements for our human